What's going on, guys? I'm Rig. Today we're going to be doing some terrain, so let's see what we're going to need. So let's kick it off with some glue, my two favourite types, a scalpel, spare scalpel blades, a hobby knife, some sandpaper, and what we're putting together. That's right, it's the Orc terrain from the Octarius Kill Team box. So let's add all these bits together, and remember those spare blades, guys. So let's start off by using a very important tool which I forgot to show you. That's your hobby clippers. So let's get it off the sprue with one of them, because you're going to need some clippers. It will make your life so much easier. So once we've got everything off the sprue that we're going to need to put together, what you want to do next is just sort of give it a quick dry fit, work out what you're going to be doing with it when it goes together. As you can see, I don't quite know what to do with this support. And once we've done that, we want to get rid of our sprue lines. So, as many people have told you before, use the back side, the blunt side of your scalpel to start getting rid of those mould lines, so you're not cutting into the plastic and ruining any details. I do mix up between the back end and the front end, just where it needs to be for a little bit of sharpness, just to get rid of those rougher parts where the sprue was connected to the piece. So whilst doing all this, it can blunten and dull down your scalpel edges. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you how I change my scalpel blades off. I use a pair of pliers just so that I'm not thrusting that bit of metal straight into my hand or hurting myself in any way, shape or form. Once we've got it off, we're going to put the new blade back on in a very similar way. So this is just a little reminder, be sure to be very careful of this blade. It is incredibly sharp and you can cut yourself very easily. So again, if you're young or don't exactly feel like you trust yourself, get a parent or someone older than you to do it. Unless you suddenly realise you're the adult in the room. Because unfortunately, that's what happens too often. So anyway, once we've got the old blade off, we don't want to just throw it in a bin for anyone to cut themselves on. I put it back into the old packaging. I put a bit of tape around the edge so it can't escape, and then I label it up saying used blade, and I store these all up into a box where once it's full, I then tape the box up, write again on it, used blades, and throw it into the bin then, so no one's going to hurt themselves on them. So just remember, be wary of others and just give anyone that might be going near that box a little heads up that it's got used blades in it. Now let's finish up getting this bit of terrain together. So now it's all assembled, and off camera I've base coated it because everybody's seen how to base coat stuff. So I'm going to start off with some Iron Warrior, which is a darker silver, and a dry brush from Army Painter. And thanks Citadel, thanks for this weird goopy bit that I've got on here to get rid of. Right, once I've dealt with that, which will be just a moment, get the tweezers in there. So while this is happening, I'm just going to say I'm using Iron Warriors because it is a darker silver compared to Lead Belcher, which everyone seems to use. I just want to go a little bit against the grain. So once we're doing that, we're going to just do a little bit of an overbrush and cover everything in silver. So let's give that a go, shall we? So now we've got our items that we are polishing up in a nice silver. Let's start putting some colour variant in with some brass scorpion. I'm going to pick out a couple of details just to break up the colour of the silver a little bit more before we move on to the next step. So let's have a look at that happening. So now all our metals are done, let's start rusting it up with a dark red ochre pigment from Vallejo, and we're going to be using 2 washes from Vallejo. This is a lighter, sort of more orangey one, and we're going to be using a sort of more chocolate to brown one, which I'm just reaching for now. So I didn't have it ready by my side. So let's see what happens when we get these guys on. And just bear in mind whilst doing rust, the key to it is put it wherever you want. It doesn't truly matter. Things rust differently depending on their environment, so use your imagination a little bit. Just imagine where you would think that rust would appear and put it down. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is orc terrain anyway, so it's going to be a bit rusty, right? And just to talk a little bit about the method that I'm using, so I'm starting off with the chocolatey brown rust colour. I'm just getting it into all the creases here, and once I've done that, I've got my sort of my darker rust colour down. I'm going to then move on to my lighter rust colour before I go onto my pigments, because they're going to be the end result. They're going to be the bit that's going to gloss over the top and give it almost like a gritty texture to it when you look at the rust. So just a quick thing to bear in mind whilst you're using pigments is the way that I use them is probably completely wrong and completely different to the way other people use them, or they might be the right way. I don't know, I haven't actually looked into it. But what I do is I'll get a bulk of it on my brush, I'll get it onto that bit of tissue paper, and then I'll just start brushing it on. And once I've got a thick layer on, I'll then get as much of the pigment off the brush and I'll then just whip it off. Another thing to remember as well is let the washes dry first, otherwise it's just all going to become a gloopy mess on your brush and on your model. So let the washes dry and then brush your pigments on. So once you're happy with the rust effects that you got, you want to lock it in with a varnish. I use a matte varnish, again from Vallejo, and this is where mistakes happened. Oh boy, did mistakes happen. I tried using, for the first time ever, chipping medium, and I did all this detail thinking, hey, I'll cover up all that rust effect and I'll paint it on nice, I'll chip it off, because I've done this with hairspray thousands of times on other models. Well, I'll tell you one thing that I learnt. When they say use 2 thin coats of chipping medium, oh, use 2 thin coats, please, for the love of the Lords. And here it comes, the moment of realization. Oh, this isn't coming off right. Oh no, I'm down to bare plastic. And I'm thinking to myself, have I ruined this? Have I destroyed this? No, no such thing. It's terrain. It's supposed to be left out. It's supposed to be weathered. Yes, it hasn't gone my way, but such is life. So let's go back to an original technique where I'm going to put the silver over the base, what is now going to be the base paint, on these barricades, and I'm just going to re-rust everything. And it's orc terrain. It doesn't matter. So let's have a quick re-spice of everything. So here we are, lessons learnt, questions asked, moments of sorrow had. Instead of having an under rust, I've got an over rust, but it doesn't matter. I've gone back, I've used the same techniques that I've already shown you, and I think they've still come up to a really good standard. They're definitely tableable, and they'll bring the terrain board to life. So guys, I hope you've learnt at least something today. And if not, you got a good laugh at my mistake. Catch you in the next one. Have a good one, guys.